It really is fascinating, the path that my father chose in order to become an actor, and it certainly wasn't what his father wanted for him. Papa Jack, as I used to call my grandfather, Lemmon, was a baker. He sold baking goods in Newton, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. And he wanted so much for little Jackie to follow him into the baking business. And, you know, Pop went to Andover and then went on to Harvard. When he got out of Harvard, he wanted to go to New York and save the American theater, quote unquote. And he came to Papa Jack and he said, no, this is it. I've made my mind up. I want to be an actor. And Papa Jack said the most wonderful thing. He said, son, do what you do because you love it. And never forget that I'll find romance in a loaf of bread. And Pop took that with him through his career, and I think he found romance in every performance he ever gave. Don't you? Out of Harvard, Pop went into the Army, did a brief stint there as an ensign, believe it or not, and straight to the New York stage, as I said, to save the American theater, and worked at the Actors Studio, which is where he met my mother, Cynthia Stone, and they did a number of projects together. I think they did 4 series together, Heavens for Betsy, What a Wonderful Guy, and a couple of other ones. Then they headed for Hollywood, and bingo, the rest was history.
He was discovered by Harry Cohn, the legendary head of Columbia Pictures, and was signed to a contract. His first film was It Should Happen to You, opposite Judy Holliday, and he made very companionable films at Columbia, very pleasing, easy-to-watch films, mostly musicals and comedies, but they weren't really the kind of films that ignite a career. That didn't really happen until he was loaned out by Columbia to Warner Brothers for Mr. Roberts in 1955, and that film, of course, earned him an Oscar.
People didn't realize the scope he was capable of doing when he first came onto the scene. He was just that wonderful guy, you know, who would kind of trip headfirst over the finish line.
Early on, he became labeled as a funny man, especially with the broad performance in Mr. Roberts. And Jack aspired to more than that. There was no evidence at Columbia that they were going to come up with these kind of films for him. He was really a missed opportunity for Columbia. So he was sort of rescued by Billy Wilder. And oddly enough, it was because of a Columbia film, because of Operation Madball, which Wilder was a big fan of and loved and saw something in Lemmon when he saw that film.
Wilder felt that he was the average American. I mean, he looked average, you know, he didn't look like a movie star. He was average height, an average face, and he did average things, but he always found him a little mischievous. You know, Lemmon was somebody who, yes, walked the straight and narrow, but deviates, but comes back. That's typical American, isn't it? That's what he saw in Lemmon.
Billy Wilder pushed him to a whole different level where he could use the comedy and the zaniness that Jack Lemmon had, but push him to that other level where he's playing a really touching character in a touching situation.
Jack Lemmon was an everyman like William Holden, but he had this versatility to be really funny and goofy and still not be ridiculous.
Which of these instruments do you play?
Both fiddles.
Oh, fascinating. Do you use a bow or do you just pluck it?
Most of the time, I slap it.
You must be quite a girl.
Want to bet?
It was a very great collaboration on Some Like It Hot. They had a great rapport. For the first time, Jack actually had an almost equal relationship with an authority figure. At Columbia, he was basically told by Harry Cohn what he was going to do and when he was going to do it, whereas Wilder sort of ferreted out information from Jack and ideas and invited him to collaborate. And in fact, Jack Lemmon's mother, from what I gather, was very eccentric and theatrical, and Jack was always entranced and entertained by her. And in fact, she was used as the model for Daphne and Some Like It Hot.
Hi! I'm the bass fiddle. Just call me Daphne. Hi!
Some Like It Hot was a huge sensation, and I think Lemmon brought out this sweetness in Billy Wilder. I mean, there's something nurturing and loving, and there's a lovely quality to him.
Jack Lemmon had made a great impression in Some Like It Hot. He brought so much of his own comic genius to the film, but The Apartment was his first leading role as a romantic leading man.
Miss Kubelik, I've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
I almost didn't recognize you. This is the first time I've ever seen you so very close.
How'd everything go on the 27th floor?
Oh, you're great. Look, have you seen the Music Man?
Nope.
Would you like to?
Sure.
I thought maybe we'd get a bite to eat first, and then we go.
Oh, you mean tonight?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't. I'm meeting somebody.
Oh.
The Apartment was the first time Jack Lemmon took the weight of a major motion picture on his shoulders. C.C. Bud Baxter was The Apartment. It was not just a defining performance for Jack Lemmon, the actor, but it was also a groundbreaking film in so many ways, sociopolitically and artistically, and it was up to Jack Lemmon to carry the weight of that, and he did.
You have a basically decent guy who's behaving in an unethical and unlikable way. He's teetering between boundaries of sympathy and unsympathy, and I think that's always interesting to me and challenging.
My favorite scene, far and away, and I think it probably was at least one of Pop's favorites, was the martini scene at the bar. Because if there was ever a scene where this guy could have gone, oh, poor me, that was the scene, and you know what? He didn't. Instead, he said, I take it on my shoulders. And that's what made Jack Lemmon a hero, and that's what made Jack Lemmon a hero in so many performances, but especially in this film. And I think it was really the first time that we saw that.
You married?
Nope.
Family?
Nope.
A night like this, it sort of spooks you to walk into an empty apartment.
I said I had no family. I didn't say I had an empty apartment.
He could handle comedy beautifully. He brought so much physical business to Wilder's script. He could handle the dramatic demands of the film. He could be a romantic lead. He was everything in one package in this film. And from The Apartment on, a great, great friendship between Wilder and Lemmon was born.
It was like a father-son relationship. They were very close, and Jack looked up to Billy. I mean, anything that Billy would say, Jack would do. But Billy loved everything Jack did. I mean, he could do no wrong.
First of all, they worked together because obviously Billy liked the way Pop worked, and of course Pop liked the way Billy worked. And secondly, you get used to each other. You know, you get used to doing the tango together, and literally in my father's case, from Some Like It Hot. And if you take a look at the films and the career that those films spanned, it's really kind of a remarkable marriage, wasn't it?
They made, what, 7, 8 films together. It was one of those relationships where what Billy Wilder was saying about the world, his vision of the world, the Lemmon persona was a perfect vehicle for it. The persona of Lemmon only came to roost under the hand of Billy Wilder.
I guess I made a boo-boo, huh?
I like it.
Really? You wouldn't be ashamed to be seen with somebody in a hat like this?
Of course not.
Maybe if I wore it a little more to one side. How's that? Is that better?
He definitely had his own style, and that's what made him a star. He was vulnerable, and you can see it. It came through in his acting.
I think Jack Lemmon had a lot of the same qualities that Henry Fonda had in a comedic version of it. He didn't seem like an actor. He was one of us. We could identify with him, and he was honest, but he had this great kind of sense of humor and an ability to use it.
I think one of the wonderful things that I've heard this from many, many directors was that my father would never read a line the same way. He always gave a different reading and a different choice to the director while still staying in context. So he was constantly fresh, he was constantly new, but every single take was usable. But in the days of Wine and Roses, the famous greenhouse scene, which is now where we really do see my father reach his dramatic ability to the fullest. Pop did it, and I went home that night, and it was all one. Blake shot it. Blake Edwards, the director, writer, shot it all in one. And he went home feeling like, that's it, I've just done it. That's some of the greatest work of my life. And he showed up the next day on the set, and the entire greenhouse was put back together. And he's looking at it, and everybody's like, they're not making eye contact with him, and they're walking away and stuff. He says, what the hell's going on here? What's the greenhouse? Blake comes up behind him, pats him on the shoulder, and goes, Jack, we got to do it again. They lost it in the darkroom last night. So when you watch that film and you see that scene, that's take 2. And you know what? He said, I never did it as good. That's all he ever said about it. He never complained. He never bitched or moaned. That was Jack Lemmon.
27.
Oh,
I hope everything goes all right.
I hope so. Wouldn't you know they called me on a day like this, what with the cold and everything? How do I look?
Fine. Wait.
Thank you.
You know, that's the first thing I ever noticed about you. When you were still in the local elevator, you always wore a flower.
Good luck, and wipe your nose.
My father never lost the respect for and the appreciation of the privilege of being able to work in this industry. There was a genuine love for the material in everything Pop did. And he'd sometimes go a year and a half between jobs, purposely turning down stuff and then taking something for no money. I think that story was told to me about China Syndrome because he believed in it, because he wanted to do it.
His feeling was, why does it have to be comedy or drama? And he kept going back to The Apartment and how they were both intermingled seamlessly, and that's what he wanted. And he knew it was difficult to do. He compares it to living. It's not always easy to get this fine balance. And I believe at one point he said that had he never made another film after The Apartment, he would have been satisfied because that was the film that did it all for him. He actually achieved it sooner than he thought he would.
Miss Kubelik, one doesn't get to be a second administrative assistant around here unless he's a pretty good judge of character. And as far as I'm concerned, you're tops. I mean, decency-wise and otherwise-wise. Cheers.
I think my father was his happiest in front of a camera. He gave everything he was and everything he had to every single frame that he ever did. And that's why, as far as everybody knows, the phrase that he said before every performance he ever gave, the two words, magic time. When Jack Lemmon got in front of that camera, that's exactly what it was. Magic time. I think it was more than just a simple calling to his muse. I think it was a statement of his being. That's what he felt compelled to share. And that's the one thing I can say as his son. You know, my father gave me many things, but if I had to name one at the top of the pile, he gave me magic. There was magic every time I was with him, everywhere I went with him, because there was magic in him. And so there was magic in us. And that's what he was. He was this marvelous, delicious human leprechaun. And when you were with Jack Lemmon, it was magic time.